Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Tarot. Welcome to my channel. Today I thought it would have been fun to do a VR, so it's a very special one, one that actually went straight to my attention as soon as I saw it on my general feed on YouTube. And it's basically my top 5-ish weird, strange decks. And it's a VR to Sandra from Spirit of Avalon. I've also watched this video on Tammy Pie's channel. So why did I say that it went straight to my heart? Because it's basically what I really love in a tarot deck or an oracle deck. And I did say 5-ish because if you know me, you know that I never actually stop at whatever is top 5 or top 10. I always have to, you know, there's going to be an honorable mention, sometimes even more than one. So what I decided to do is actually, I'm going to show you top 5 oracle decks that are weird and strange and top 5 tarot deck that are weird and strange. Let's have a look. So the first deck we're going to have a look at is the Tarot Bot, and it's by Michael Murdoch, and this is the website where you can find it. I honestly don't know whether this deck is still available or not. I will do a quick check and then I will definitely post the link in the description box below just in case you guys want to get a copy. I have to say, this is a very, very beautiful deck. It ticks all of the boxes for me, except for the gold gilding, which is starting to chip. But that's okay because I've also been using it a lot. And there's a lot of, as you can tell, it's a very glossy finish, therefore it catches the light. But I'll try my best not to, get the light to cover the cards. So this deck has a very weird concept. So it talks about this dystopian future where humanity has disappeared, but because humanity has built a world of AI, whatever is left is, you know, those products of AI. So basically robots that have stayed behind because they did not perish with humanity. And so, you know, they have their own world. And the funny thing is that I really love this deck because of its quirkiness. Because you can tell that, apart from the fact that I also love the color palette, is one of my favorite. The vibrancy of the colors is just absolutely superb. But it's also talking about this kind of population made out of robots, you know, and they have all these weird shapes and they're different one to the other. And they are depicted as if they were human. So it really looks as if we were looking at an almost civilization, you know, humans, except that they're not humans, they're actually robots. And even, let's say, on all of the kings, you'll see that the transportation mode is always a robot itself. So unfortunately, I seem to think that not even animals have survived, although we do see a kitty cat here, but I can't really tell whether it's a cyber kitty cat or not. I certainly hope that the cats will survive. So in any case, this is a really strange deck, as you can imagine. It's got all of the sense of the RWS. The minors are illustrated. There are a few additional cards, as you can see, the anarchist, for example, or the conman. But let's say it does follow the traditional RWS symbology. And it is absolutely beautiful and strange and weird. And that's one of the reasons why I love it so much, because it is that kind of weirdness that I really appreciate. So I've always really loved curiosity things, you know, the cabinet of curiosity and stuff like that has always been my guilty pleasure, in the sense that my dad actually used to have one. And I have to say that I had found a way to break in without him noticing, or maybe he noticed but he never said anything. And so I found all of his really, really weird books. You know, it was really, my dad was really into aliens, he was really into the occult, he was really into the all of the movements in history that had to deal with witchcraft and everything. and I was fascinated by that. And I like to think that my passion comes from that as well, because when I was little, you know, the forbidden books for me were the ones that were actually talking about this. So obviously my fascination grew because it was the taboo thing to do. And whenever you tell a kid not to do something, that's the first thing they do, don't they? So this is the Tarot bot, and it's the first one of my top 5 weird and strange decks, tarot decks. The second deck I'm going to show you thanks to this VR is the Raincoast Tarot by Christoph James. I think I've recently shown in my channel the Raincoast Vision Tarot by the same author. It was a Kickstarter from this year, earlier this year. This has got nothing to do with the Raincoast Vision. It's completely different. Where the Raincoast Vision was all about, let's say, manipulated photos, perhaps, but I'm not sure, the use of the AI, but as I said, I'm not sure, so I cannot confirm either way. But this one is an artwork. It is actually a very quirky deck. It's an incredibly busy deck. It's got a lot of elements in it. What I find very interesting about this deck, and the reason why I actually really love it, is the fact that you can still actually get a sense of the essence of the card, because it does reflect ultimately the quintessence of the meaning. So you do recognize the symbols that are there, and you can build a story on every single thing that you see in the card if you want to spend time on them and have a look at all the little things that come to the surface. It's an excellent deck to read with. Especially when you want to tap into your own imagination, not just intuition, but definitely creativity and imagination. I strongly believe that if someone comes up with the idea of producing, you know, creating a deck like this, their mind must be absolutely fascinating to me. Because I kid you not, this deck, I would just spend hours and hours looking at the photo, at the artwork. And you know, and every single time that I discover something new, it's just a feast for the eyes, because I'm always really intrigued by the thought process that goes behind the decision of the creator. Why did I choose this specific symbol to depict this particular card? So this is the Raincoast Tarot. And another deck that I'm sure everyone knows is the Sakki Sakki Tarot. Now this deck is the first edition. It's also because the second edition by Monica Cleosaki was not called Sakki Sakki Tarot anymore. It was actually called I Am the Artist, which ironically is one of the cards of the previous edition as well. The reason why this deck is here in this VR is because the majority of the cards, as you can tell, do not have any heads. Now, this deck is absolutely quirky and fantastic. I love the combination of colors. I love the combination of the symbols in the cards. Again, like many other decks that actually have the property of being quirky, strange, and weird, at the end of the day, when they convey the message, I think it's actually something that sets them apart from the other decks. Because you can have weird, you can have strange, but if it doesn't convey the right message, it will not be an easy deck to read. On the other hand, you can have a really busy deck like this one, for example, but every single element in the card will actually some way or another point to something that is easily recognizable, and that it will bring back your attention to what you know already about the card. And that to me is one of the signs that I look for in a deck when it's a quirky one, when it's a deck that I feel could be very interesting to have in my collection, because it's got something that other decks do not have. And I really do believe that this deck, even more than the second edition of the I Am the Artist Tarot, this deck conveys exactly that. And apart from everything, is actually a really beautiful deck, and I actually love the cardstock as well. So this is the Sakki Sakki Tarot. And of course, I could not do a VR about weird and strange decks without talking about the Divian Moon Tarot. I mean, come on. This tarot is probably one of the weirdest one that I've got in my collection. It's by Patrick Valenza. I absolutely love this deck. Used it so many times that I will probably have to buy another copy soon, because this one is bearing the brunt of all of the shuffling and the usage of you know, of the many times in which I read with this deck. I'm sure you all know it, so it doesn't necessarily need any presentation, but just let me just remind you how exquisitely human the quirkiness of this deck is. Let me explain what I mean with that. Human beings are not all equals. We are not, and the fact that we are not all equals in the sense that we do not have the same appearance, each and every one of us is different. As a matter of fact, our fingerprints are unique. So what we do, we accept this uniqueness, this otherness, this difference, and we celebrate it because it's something that sets us apart. Now, what I love about this deck is that there is that sense of quirkiness that is proper to human beings. Human beings are not clean. We are not clean. Our species is not clean. We are basically surrounded by microbes, by parasites, by viruses, by what have you. Okay, we're just carrying petri dishes. It's like we don't even know how many things are crawling on our skins right now. I don't want to become gross or morbid, but I love the fact that this deck is actually not shying away from that and is actually bringing back to the surface something that I believe each and every one of us knows deep down, that we are weird and strange, and we are beautiful because of that. And even though I wouldn't go as far as to say this deck is beautiful, I do believe that it's incredibly interesting. And yes, perhaps to me it is beautiful, although I know that it's something very subjective and someone else might think that it's actually not. I've heard a lot of opinions about this deck, and there are a lot of people that do not stand it. And what I think is a mark for a really, let's say, well done deck is that you have these extremes. You have people that really love it and you have people that really hate it, and no one that falls in between, or not many that falls in between, because it's a visceral reaction. It's something that really triggers something, an emotion, a very strong emotion in ourselves, and that is a mark for a very well done deck. So this is the Deviant Tarot. And this is the last tarot deck that I'm going to show you for this VR, and then I'll have 5 oracle decks. This is a fantastic tarot. It's out of print. It was printed. It was a very special release by Los Scarbell from the 90s. I think this is 1991. This one was, let's say, inspired by Martin Mystère, and Martin Mystère was a comic book that we all loved back in the 90s, and it's still in print. And it's basically Martin Mystère is an investigator, but he's investigating really weird and strange beings. So this is obviously in Italian, and it's Tarocchi del Bestiario. And Bestiario, it's like some kind of a encyclopedia of strange beings, let's say, not human beings but beasts. So this deck is exactly that. It will show you all of these really weird and strange beings. And that was when it was printed. It was printed on, as you can probably tell or not, but it's a you can probably tell from here, it's a textured art paper, and it's incredibly beautiful. I even love the backs, to be honest. So all of these creatures are creatures that Martin Mystère was investigating in one or another of the issues of the comic book. And obviously you need to know the, let's say, not necessarily to read all the comic books, but you kind of need to know the stories behind these, because otherwise it would be difficult to understand the associations with it's a majors only, by the way, so with the major arcana. But it's just one of the weirdest decks that I've ever seen and I have in my collection. And I'm so happy that I have it, because look at this deck card, it's just absolutely superb. I love this deck so much. I do not use it. It's a collectible item. I don't want to ruin it, but I do have a look at it every now and then because I just really adore it. It's just absolutely fantastic. So this is the Tarocchi del Bestiario. So it's basically the tarot of encyclopedia of strange beasts. But let's come to the oracle decks that I think are my top 5 weird and strange decks. Now this one is actually 3 decks in one. It's the Oracle of Oddities 1, 2 and 3. And it has to be one of the weirdest oracle decks that I've got. I mean, you got skeletons of infants holding hands with, you know, a seed and a plant sprouting off them. You got skulls with plants. You got a hand with some remnants of muscles here, but not all of the phalanges on the fingers. And you got plants or branches, you know, kind of sprouting off them. It's something that it's so weird and fantastic. I really enjoy this deck. I love everything about it. I love the fact that it's not white. It's actually looks like it's an antiquated kind of yellowing paper, indicating to, you know, all those old paintings of any antique anatomy paintings and stuff like that. It is, by the way, Claire Goodchild, which is the same author as the Antique Anatomy Tarot. Therefore, it does remind a lot of the tarot deck as well. I even think that the association between the artwork and the keywords is fantastic, because it just hits the right spot every single time. I really do appreciate there's a lot of references to the chakras as well, which is, you know, you would think that that's another thing that is actually weird about this deck, because you know, it's just associating bones with chakras. There you go, you've got the whole system of the chakras, the Dharma, which is absolutely fantastic. I really enjoy this deck. I can actually use it in a number of ways. I pair it up with a lot of other tarot decks. What I like most about this deck is the fact that you can actually use it also to have a chuckle. So it's one of those decks that you can actually use for shadow work if you need it to be. But on the other hand, depending on what you use it with, like for example, if you pair it up with the Housewives Tarot or the Zombie Tarot, it would definitely make you laugh. So this is the Oracle of Oddities. And the next oracle deck that I really believe it's a bit weird and strange is The Sacred Journey into the Animal Realms by Kai Crow. Now this deck, I have to say, so this deck is, I change my mind every 5 minutes about this deck, in the sense that sometimes I look at the cards and I think to myself, this is too weird for me. You know, because let me just find a deck that there you go. I mean, this card, it's probably because of the eyes, not because of the face of the person, absolutely not, but because I believe that the eyes have been blacked out, and that really looks weird to me. Or, you know, the fact that there's I don't think these are called owls in Italian. We don't call them like that. We call them with a different name, but I don't remember. But in any case, it's a special type of owl, and they're nocturnal, of course, and it makes sense because the keywords or the message is return of the light. So they're basically announcing the return of the light after a night. But to me, the fact that they're being elongated because they're actually being stretched, it's a bit weird. And then you find kangaroo with the word miracle, and again, the eyes have been blackened. So I really think it's a weird deck. But to be honest with you, when I use it, it actually works. It's a beautiful deck. It works really well. It just gets the message. But then you find cards like this and you go, yeah, sure, yeah, totally makes sense. You know, but I really like it. I really appreciate it. It's an out of print deck now. Some of the cards are actually incredibly beautiful, like this one, for example, the Secret Sweeper. And so because it was also a gift, I've actually come to appreciate how quirky and weird it is, you know, this deck. Some of the cards are really out there. And so I just simply had to put it. And are these Yetis? I mean, they look like it. I don't know. but it says the sword of truth, right? So this is obviously someone holding a sword. And then, I mean, I need to look at the guidebook, obviously, because there will be an explanation for everything. But I love how quirky this deck is. And I don't know it enough. I haven't taken, unfortunately, enough time to get to know it. But every time that I look at it, I like it more. So whenever I'll be back from my travel overseas, I'll definitely take some time off to study this deck, because I really do believe that it's worth it. So this is the Secret Journey into the Animal Realms. And here we got the Phantom Pack by Edward Gorey. Now, if you don't know this deck is a bit of a mix of grim and darkness and weirdness and strangeness, but also it's very hilarious. So you will find you need to have a sense of humor, okay? It's not for everyone. You need to have a sense of humor, and you always need to go back to the book, because I can assure you that otherwise you only see one side of it, and one side of it could be really dark, as you can definitely tell. But I can assure you that once you read the guidebook, like for example, let's have a look. This is the letter. Let's find the letter, because it's not on. There you go, the letter. Tuesday, slender, reversals, creeping sickness, a forged will, insomnia, loss of hair, detention, theft, cafard, which I don't even know what that is, jealousy, an accident in a restaurant, inanition. So you see what I mean? It's obviously something that you need to have the stomach for it. It's something that is not for everyone, but it's definitely something really weird and really strange. And I think that overall, in all of my decks, this absolutely needed to be in this VR, because if I had to pick just one weird and strange oracle deck that I got, well, this is it, the Phantom Pack. Absolutely fantastic. So another deck, an oracle deck that I want to show you today, is the Human Spirit Oracle, Learning to Reconnect, and this is by the very famous Jenna della Grottaglia. This is really quickly becoming one of my favorite oracle decks whatsoever. I don't even know why, because when I got it, I was really in doubt. The art style, let me just zoom in, because otherwise it's difficult to see. The artwork is very weird, so there's a lot of Photoshop manipulation here. I do not believe, but again, apologies, I'm not sure 100% that there has been the use of AI. What I do see that is that there's a lot of Photoshop manipulation. What I love about this deck is not only that it's very weird and strange, but the association between the messages on the side and the artwork, or the photo on the image on the cards, is just absolutely fantastic. And it's not just that, it's not just a surprise to be working with this deck. It's actually incredibly spot on pretty much every kind of reading that I'm doing. So this card has been my stalker card for a while now. Fortunately, I have moved on to different things, but for a while, when there were a lot of issues dealing with doctors from two different sides of the world, to be honest with you, I was pulling this card and I was telling myself, not my circus, not my monkeys, and I was saying, yeah, but I still have to deal with them. But this deck is absolutely quirky and whimsical and funny and weird and strange, and it will make you laugh and it will make you think. And it's got everything that you need in a deck, in an oracle deck at least. This deck, as a matter of fact, what I'm doing recently, I'm trying to pair it up with a couple of tarot decks that I've got. One that pairs up really well with this one, but let's say it gets on a bit, probably a bit too much on the shadowy side, is the Raincoast Vision Tarot. And the reason why I'm saying it gets a little bit too much on the shadowy side is because it takes on a very dark perspective. So you need to be you know, in that space to be able to appreciate it. But other than that, I highly recommend this deck because every single one of these cards is like reading a collection of short stories. It's actually really, really interesting. So this is the Human Spirit Oracle. And last but not least, this has just arrived in my collection and I'm stoked to have it. First of all, because I love Monica Badieschi. She's also the author of the Shadowland Tarot, and I think there's also Lenormand, but this is actually, okay, so this is shadow casting with Bone and Curio Oracle cards. Okay, it is called Between the Worlds. Now I have to say something about shadow casting. I have been doing shadow casting ever since I was a little girl, because my auntie was doing it, and so, well, I wasn't doing it, I was watching it, okay, but obviously I've been into using bone castings as charm castings, and you know, bone and curios and curio casting for, well, over 35 decades, so 35 years. So when I saw this on Amazon, and it wasn't cheap, but that's also because of the product quality. You know, it comes with a very nice wraparound magnetic box. A really good book, really good book, with a few spreads at the end, for example. But also what I really enjoy is that you've got a bit of a story that accompanies the meaning of the card. You've got a upright meaning and a reversed meaning as well, because that's how you should actually use, you know, when you do shadow casting. Usually it's with objects, so bones, actual bones, or you know, charms. When you do it with cards, you should actually do it with reversed cards as well. That's probably, I need to think, but that is probably the only time in which I actually see myself doing you know, one of those washing kind of, I'm trying to do it here, but to be honest with you, this is not the best tarot mat that I have, or reading mat. But this is called a wash-up shuffle, in the sense that you're literally just washing the cards. And this is one of the ways in which you can get a very high percentage, or at least a balanced percentage of cards, let's say reversed, rather than just, you know, upright. And this is one of the very few times in which I actually enjoy reading reversals with a very specific meaning, because, oh, let me just zoom in because it's actually tiny. In this case, it just makes sense. I mean, imagine when you're doing charm casting, for example, do you actually stay there and put them all the charms upright? No, you just read them the way they are. And same goes with the bones. And every single thing that you actually collect. And let me say something else. My auntie, I don't know whether that was the right way to do it or not. I really have no idea, because I don't think there's as much tradition on casting as there is on tarot, or at least there's not that many books around. There might be, but not, I wouldn't know, because I actually haven't checked. But in any case, what I mean to say is that there's a lot of personal ways to do these kind of things. And that's what my auntie was doing. She was just, you know, throwing them on. She would literally just put them in her hands and then shake her hands until, you know, she was satisfied that it was enough. And then she was just dropping them without any intention of dropping them one way or the other. That's simply letting fate decide which way they were falling on the mat. And then she was just understanding the relationship between them. I wish I were that good at doing charm casting. Let's say I do that, but I have a very special system, let's call it this way, which is based on, if you are familiar with the Philip Pullman's trilogy, his Dark Materials, I actually use the same system of divination that you can find in the Alexiometer. So obviously one thing has got 3 meanings depending on the level in which you look at. one day I'll do a video on that and I'll explain what I mean with that. But let's have a look at the cards. So as you can tell, some of them are upright, some of them are reversed. And what I really like, I'm just going to show them to you upright just to, so that you can actually see the cards. I really appreciate the quality of the deck. Is actually really good. It's a bit stiff, but I don't mind it because it needs to be shuffled that way. So it's better that it's sturdy. And each and every card has got an upright and a reverse meaning, and you can use a number of spreads and you can obviously put them all together. There's actually a way to read them as if it was a Lenormand, so you have a grand tableau, you know, with like a massive set of cards. I don't tend to believe that they form a sentence in a row, as if, so I don't believe that if by doing this you actually form a sentence in a row, if you know what I mean. To me, this is just to give you an example of a reading. It depends a lot on the question, but long bones and short bones are referred to the period of time. So depending whether they're upright or reverse, let's just imagine that they all came upright. So in this case is months. So the quartz point in this case is referring back to clarity, and because it's so very intuitive, as you can tell. The quartz point, of course, is referring back to clarity, and the button is a connection. Why? Because it you know, it creates a bridge, it creates a connection. It just, you know, you can button up a shirt, right? So you connect the two sides of the shirt together. So I don't necessarily read it the Lenormand way. To me, it is still a sentence, obviously, but it depends on the question. So if you were asking when will this thing happen, I'm just gonna say, look, it's gonna take a while because there's still some clarity that needs to be connected to. This is where this is the way I will read it, and I can assure you that it's a lot more intuitive than it looks, because you can learn by heart. I don't know how many cards there are, but you can learn by heart the way in which, you know, that you have to read them upright or reversed, but it's the connection that counts. And so in that sense, it's more similar to the Lenormand, I guess. But it doesn't have the same kind of system. It's not. It's a charm casting. It's literally a charm casting. If you've never done that before, it may feel a bit odd at first, but I can assure you it's so much fun. Because I wanted to say this. It's very strong, it's very intense, it's very powerful, but it's also so much fun. So much fun to use it. I highly recommend it. I absolutely love it. I've seen a lot of people using a pen or a Sharpie or what have you, or even there is this handheld laser printer that you can use and print the words, the keywords on it, and I might actually do that because that would be fun. If I learn how to use it, but I don't have it yet, so I'll have to buy it first. But in any case, if I do get it eventually, I'll try and do that. But this deck is absolutely so much fun, so weird, so strange, and I absolutely recommend it. And this was the last one of this video, so thank you so much for staying with me till the end. I hope you liked it. If you did, please put a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And that's it. Thank you for staying with me. Have a great day.